Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Bianca Eleanor, and we're going to be having a conversation about her self-marriage. Thanks so much for being here with us, Bianca.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome, and I can't wait to hear more about not just your self-marriage, but also the work that you've facilitated for lots of other people. So let's just start with the inspiration behind it. What inspired you to marry yourself?
Well, as I said to you before, I started to do it for other people before I did it for myself. So the idea came about actually before I moved it into a workshop and incorporated the crystals and the things that I do. It was literally the first time I ever did it was for a good friend, and she was going through, I wouldn't say a breakup because her relationship was kind of on again, off again, but I knew that she really needed to focus on herself. And you can kind of give information or advice as a friend and say, you really need to take some more time for yourself or think about yourself in the relationship. But I thought, to do a little evening for her, make a special evening. I did put a lot of effort into it. I mean, I laid a nice table and we ordered takeout, but the idea was to make her to do some self-love vows to herself, which then turned into self-marriage. And she did choose a little ring. I mean, we had a little plastic ring at first. So it had little lips on it with little diamonds, but she got a proper one in the end. I think she chose a garnet. Um, but after that, I realized that this is a really good thing and I can expand on it and we can make it a proper ceremony and not just self love vows. We could escalate it to self marriage. And I developed it and incorporated it into one of the crystal workshops that I do. It's based around self love. And then I started doing it for other people. But I realized I can't go and facilitate this for other people if I'm not doing this work for myself. Um, so then I just decided to join in one day. And then it kind of becomes, I renew my vows every time I do redo the workshop. So I do that instead of having an anniversary. It's just the same as if you was to renew your vows. And I'm quite surprised at how much they change every time, to be honest. But if I didn't do that, when do we ever sit down and take inventory about ourselves? We can sit down and think, I need to do more of this, I need to do more of that. But those decisions, even then, seem to be because of external influences. Like I need to do this because of that, because of that. But self marriage really anchors in the commitment to just yourself, I feel.
Yes, yes. And you're hitting on something I was thinking about last night, which is that when we're in a relationship with someone else, we carve out time for them. We do special things for them. We intentionally go and just sit with them one on one and talk and get to know what's happening for them because we're all evolving constantly. And what's important to us is evolving. And yet, we don't often do that for ourselves, really sit with ourselves. And I'm not talking about Netflix and chill. I'm not talking about eating a meal alone. I'm talking about quality time with yourself. And it sounds like that repeat ceremony you get to do makes sure that you are spending that quality time with you.
Mhm. It's important to do because you're in a there's no other person in the relationship. You're in the relationship with yourself, so there's no one there to tell you, I'm not feeling heard in this relationship, I'm not happy in this relationship, other than you. And sometimes it really takes us to stop and talk to ourselves. I suppose the closest thing is when you do journaling to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. um, but we wouldn't know if we don't actually carve out that time, as you say, to talk to ourselves. We wouldn't know if we're doing a good job in our relationships with ourselves or not, because it would just get, you know, we just wouldn't.
Exactly. And tell us more about the first time that you did marry yourself. Were you surprised by the impact? What was it like for you?
It was kind of I call it a whirlwind self marriage, because I only decided I was going to do it 3 hours prior. And I was more focused on making a nice evening for everybody else. Um, So I did think about, oh, I haven't got enough time to what will I'm going to wear and make myself look nice. But in the same breath, I thought that's kind of a good thing, because it's not just about the ceremony and the day. The marriage carries on, so I have to learn to accept myself as I am, even if my hair's not perfect, even if I haven't got something special to wear. I have to love myself all the time. So that kind of didn't matter to me in the end. Um, and I guess I cheated on myself a lot from my first time I married myself till the second time and the third time, because it was hard to stay true to the relationship. To be honest, it held me accountable for, you know loving myself, which I hadn't done on such a level before.
Hmm. When you say you cheated on yourself, what do you mean by that?
Just being a bad wife to myself.
Got it.
Wife to myself. Yeah, so all the things I say in the vows, um, not doing them as much, or not being as honest with myself as I said I was going to be. So things of that nature. So if I
Hmm.
relationship and I said I promised to make time for you, there'd be a few months where I just think I haven't made any time for myself at all this month, and then that would be the equivalent of cheating. So
Ah,
yeah.
I get it. So it's like you're forsaking your
Mhm.
vows that you made to yourself.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
see why it would be helpful then to have a structure in which you're recommitting and
Mm.
exploring whether you're keeping those vows, adjusting them, because we learn as we go. And
Yeah.
maybe the vows that were right for us 1 year ago, 1 month ago, aren't quite the right fit for us the next
Mm.
time we have introspection.
Mm.
Would you be willing to read us the most recent version of your vows?
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. I'm
Great.
gonna have to find them before I can read them out. Don't know them by heart.
No
Um,
problem.
let's have a look. Okay. So they are: Dear Bianca, I love that you are so caring and giving to others, and promise to send the same energy back to you as much as possible. I promise to hold space for you, no matter what you are going through, and witness without judgment, to allow you to just be and to process without trying to rush and mold you into something you are not. I promise to appreciate all of your achievements more and demand less from you. I give you permission to do all of the things that ignite your soul, and to turn within and rest in I when you are tired. I want to be the one that makes you the happiest, someone you can depend on, that will always be here for you, so that you never need to look elsewhere to know how loved you truly are. Whatever happens in life and whoever comes and goes, know that you are strong, always capable of feeling joy and building the life you want.
Mm. And so, are those still resonating for you now?
Yeah, yeah.
When was the last time you when was the last self marriage that you did?
Literally, this is the beginning of summer, so maybe July. So only a few months ago, a couple of months ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
So wonderful. I love those. Short and sweet and to the point. Absolutely
Mm,
gorgeous.
yeah.
So,
So sorry, go ahead.
oh, so is there any way that leading up to your self marriage, you take the time to nurture yourself?
I'd love to say yes, but to be honest, probably not.
Yeah.
What I do is I take the time after. So
Mm.
rather than prepping the days and weeks before with skincare routine, etc., like you would for a proper wedding, I guess. Um, I like to make sure the wedding night I take time for myself. I usually have crystal bath, things of that nature, and maybe what would be the equivalent of the honeymoon period, to make sure that I've got time in the coming week to spend some time with myself. So
Mm.
the other way around, rather than prepping afterwards, kind of.
You just mentioned a crystal ball, and before you mentioned rose quartz, one of the things I love about self marriage is that we get to make it exactly how we want it. And for
Mm.
each person, it's different. I know that you do a lot of work with crystals. If someone wanted to bring in crystals to their own self marriage, do you have any tips for that?
Well, what I developed it into, the workshop's called Beyond Rose Quartz. So everybody knows rose quartz. Rose quartz is kind of what the trendiness in the industry just uses it for anything. If you were to type in crystals for babies or marriage or love or finding a badger, it would say rose quartz, rose quartz, rose
Mm.
quartz. It just says rose quartz for everything. So the point of the actual workshop is to introduce you to other heart-based stones that are more specific other than rose quartz. Rose quartz is very general. Rose quartz is for self-love. But if you think about it, self-love, especially for someone who's not feeling great about themselves, has some self-hate, self-loathing, or trauma, it's really, that is actually a really hard ask. Self-love, love yourself. Well, it's hard to love yourself when you don't feel great about yourself. So in that sense, I feel like rose quartz doesn't always work for everyone. And you kind of have to build up for that to really work for you. So I love morganite, pink morganite, which is part of the beryl family. So beryls are like emeralds, aquamarines, obviously morganite is the pink version, because morganite is connected to universal love. So we say that morganite is the grandmother to rose quartz.
Oh.
So rose quartz is about self-love.
Mhm.
Morganite gives you that feeling of, you know, if you were ever very close to a grandmother, that she'll love you unconditionally.
Mm.
Remind yourself that you are unconditionally loved by the universe, rather than asking yourself to have self-love, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah.
I find it's the most universally tangible, easiest to use.
Mm.
Um, is morganite, yeah.
Wonderful. I absolutely love that. There is always something in my experience spiritual about a self marriage because we are connecting to our inner wisdom, to our inner knowing, to our highest self in a way, and finding out what it is that that part of us wants to say to the current version of us. That at its base, that is the vows, right? We look to the highest and best version of ourselves and the message that we want to embrace. So the idea of using a talisman, a crystal, something that helps you connect to that part of you, it's
Mm.
such a wonderful idea. So, what has the impact of self marriage been on your life?
It's really helped me make decisions better, or make decisions that are better for myself. Because it's always kind of at the back of my mind now when I make decisions. So whether I'm going to take on work, and well, that, you know, I'm not going to have a lot of time on my schedule. It's going to be really heavy. Can I really handle that right now? Do I really want to do that right now? Do I want to say yes? Do I want to say no? You know, why am I saying yes? Why am I saying no? Is it because, you know, it's better for other people? Am I saying no because I've got self-doubt? So all these kinds of things, I just kind of remember my vows all the time and try and make decisions that are best for me, because naturally I tended to make decisions based on what I can see is best for everyone else around me. So I think about, oh, how is it going to affect my children? Oh, it would be really good to join this thing for the kids, so I'm going to do it, even though that means I won't have any time in the week for myself. But now I tend to think, you know, well, maybe I won't book that day trip with the kids because it's a really busy week. Maybe we can do it the next week, things like that, you know, because I'm
Yeah.
no good if I'm frazzled. So just putting myself first more consciously is the result.
Yes. Yes. And what has been the result of you putting yourself first? Do you notice that others respond to you differently? How has it shifted?
Yeah, it wasn't a conscious thing, but I think I'm a lot happier.
Hmm.
Um, the people around me have shifted a lot. I don't know if that is a direct result or not, but when you think about it, I guess it is, because I'm acting differently to how I was prior. So um, I think I don't think there's ever been a really harsh line when I've said, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that for you anymore, because I'm a very giving person. But I think there has been better boundaries in relationships as a result.
Mm.
And I just think I'm happier in every way. Since when I look back at it now, since the very first time, things have only really gotten better. There's nothing really bad or any bad moments. You know, work's gotten better, finances have gotten better, my own marriage has gone better. So yeah, I guess it's working.
Beautiful. How has it impacted your marriage to, because it sounds like you have a partner, a husband or a wife. How has it impacted your relationship with them?
I only got married last year, so I
Mhm.
married myself for the first time about 3 years ago, and I've only been in a relationship with my husband for a year. Um, I think it has helped me. Like, I still have a long, long way to go on my self-love journey personally. I have a lot of issues around my physical appearance and things of that nature, like body image, that I know I have hang-ups about. But all the other stuff, like the boundary stuff and on the inside stuff, um, it's made me, well, if you're more self-confident and self-reliant and not looking for someone else to make you happy, someone else to fulfill that or fill up that cup within you, if you have a more self-assured sense of self, then everyone's going to be happier in relationships anyway. So yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. Um, as you've worked with, is it all women that do your program, or are there women and men?
It's open to men and women, but I've only had women so far.
As you've worked with the women, what are the different reasons that you see people decide to marry themselves?
Mostly because they've just come out of abusive relationships or very long-term relationships where they completely lost their self-identity and they don't really know who they are anymore. So it's a great practice to find yourself again, self-marriage, and make that commitment back to yourself. So,
I
but
imagine, oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be regulated to those things, though. I think it's just a really good practice that everyone should do.
I'm with you. I think that it could become institutionalized in the same way that Sweet 16s are, or a retirement party, or anything else. It's such, like you mentioned, focuses you on how you want to treat yourself, and it becomes a ritual that we can come back to again and again to look at where we have the opportunity to grow and love ourselves more. And who doesn't need more self-love?
Mm. So I don't think you're ever too young to marry yourself. You could be too young to get married, but not too
Yeah.
young to marry yourself.
Right? And did you mention you have a child?
Yeah, got two children. Yeah.
Would you ever encourage them to marry themselves?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cool. When do you think you would breach that conversation?
Probably. I mean, I hope it never happens. But if I ever saw that they lacked self-confidence or something of that nature, I would encourage it. Um, I mean, they're 4 and 8, so they're kind of. I know I said you're never too young, but
But that might be too young.
when when I think whenever they're old enough and mature enough mentally to grasp the concept of why you would marry yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there are going to be a lot of folks watching these videos, and some of them might be interested in self-marriage. What would you say to someone who is considering it?
Um, think about. I'd say yes to everyone. Everyone needs to do it. I can't really think of any reasons why I wouldn't encourage it. I mean, I spoke to a man once, and he said that he has such self-loathing and low self-esteem that he doesn't feel like he's at that level yet where he could marry himself. But then I feel like that's more the reason to marry yourself. So throw yourself in at the deep end, make those commitments, and then you have to stick to it. Um, I've forgotten what the question was now.
What would you say to others who are considering marrying themselves?
Um, I would just say think about why you want to do it, and then surely that would answer if you were on the fence about it or not, why you should or you shouldn't. So just listing out the reasons why you were considering it.
What I got from your mention of this conversation that you had with the man is that we can't look at self marriage as a silver bullet. You don't marry yourself and then poof, you have the perfect relationship, just like you don't marry someone else and poof, you have the perfect relationship. It does, however, become a stepping stone on the way to having a more fulfilling, sweet relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is a reason why, despite my imperfections, despite that I also still have a long way to go, it makes sense to do the self marriage and then to celebrate it. I feel excited that you get to revisit it all the time when you have people marry themselves. And I for me it's more my anniversary and like seeing my ring every day, that sort of thing. But yeah, so any final thoughts on self-marriage or what you would say to others who are considering it?
I think the vows are the most important thing.
Mm.
Even though I understand, and I would like to have a self marriage ring because just I love gemstones, so it's a good excuse for me. But I always tell my participants, my clients, to um, write out your vows or have them printed with a nice pattern or write them out, whatever you prefer. But just have them placed somewhere where you're going to see them every day, because I think it's oh yeah, okay, I married myself, I'm looking at the ring because I married myself and committed to myself. But when you can actually see the vows, what were specifically those vows, it helps it to sink in more, I think.
Mm.
um, so my advice is, once you're married, um, the vows are really important, and it's about the marriage long term. So your wedding day, your marriage is not all about your wedding day. There's lots of pressure on the wedding day to be perfect. And while I encourage people to have a big ceremony for their self marriage as well, or not, if you just want to have a few friends, if you feel too shy to have that, or feel like others would perceive you as too egotistical for having your own big ceremony, just do it small scale. But um, remember that it's not about the day, and it's not about the ceremony, and it's not about what you did or didn't do on the day. It's about the long-term marriage and the long-term relationship. Normal marriages take work, and self-marriage is going to be an ongoing work in progress.
Amen. I feel like now I want to go print out my vows and put them up on my wall. So thank you for that idea and for that reminder that ultimately this is about the promises we make to ourselves, and that's the most important thing. Thanks so much for being with us today, Bianca.
It's okay, welcome. Thank you for having me.